Hi, I'm Melissa, and this is the Book Break. And today we're talking to Erin Washington about her book, Squats and Margaritas. And I'm super excited. Let's bring her in.
Hi.
Hello. So, Erin, I love your book. I just related to it so much, but I just would like to show the image of your book and then get a summary from you about it.
Yeah, well, Squats and Margaritas is the story of my 20-year struggle with body image, no self-worth. I struggled from about 16 with multiple eating disorders, depression, finally kind of got my life together at 37 after having two kids, where a time in your life where it's basically like focused on your kids and you don't really think that much about yourself. That's when I finally got it together. And I wanted to share my story to inspire other women that they could do it too.
Yeah, definitely. And I totally related with that. And I think, where you were talking about when you were younger, you found yourself in a position where you developed an eating disorder. And I think where you talk about that, it's really interesting because some of us think about an eating disorder sometimes about being one form or another, but you talk about it's not just one kind of eating disorder. There are lots of different disorders out there that people struggle with because of self-worth. Talk to us about that a little bit more.
Yes, it's interesting. It definitely comes from a self-worth, self-identity type situation. When people have an identity change, for me, it was quitting soccer. And I played soccer since I was 4 and then played Division I collegiate level. And I identified as a soccer player. That was what I was. And sometimes like people will go through a divorce or lose a loved one. Like when there's an identity change, it can spark an eating disorder. And it's that need to control something. Your life feels out of control. So this is something you can control, your food. And like you said, I had multiple eating disorders. They kind of evolved. It's a mental illness. So when you start doing it, maybe restricting your calories, it can kind of evolve into bulimia, what it did for me, where you binge and purge. There's an exercise bulimia element to it where I was writing down everything that I would put into my body and however many calories it was, I would go on a cardio machine and I would work out that exact amount of calories to kind of cancel it out, realizing now that it doesn't really work that way, but mentally it felt like, okay. And I obsessed about it and was 20 pounds heavier while I was in that eating disorder phase of my life, believe it or not, because people think, you're skinny, or people will understand that you have an eating disorder, like looking at you. I was the heaviest I ever was when I was dealing with like my bulimia. Depression came from that. And it all stemmed from losing that identity as a soccer player.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a really interesting thing to note is it's an identity change or like a big change in someone's life, as opposed to someone thinking, well, he or she is super, super skinny, so they must have an eating disorder. And that's not the case necessarily.
It's not. I mean, I was the heaviest that I ever was. And there's so much to it. Like when you obsess about something, for me, it was my weight. Your body is in a constant state of stress. And stress, that hormone, makes you hold on to fat. So I was so frustrated that I was like, I'm barely eating. At one point I was throwing up my food and I was heavier. I had thrown off all my hormones. I was living, like I said, in a stressful environment. My body was stressed out. When I finally just started living with balance, enjoying my life, I'm not stressed out anymore. And it was almost like my body just kind of went back to where it needed to be. And a lot of the book is talking to that woman that is working out 7 days a week, like I was, restricting her calories. I would only eat salads if we went to a restaurant. I spent my day hungry thinking that that's the best thing to do because I was barely eating, restricting calories, and I was working out more. When you do that, your body goes into starvation mode. And it's holding on to everything that you put in because it's keeping you alive. Like fat burning is no longer an essential function of your body. It's keeping you alive. So you're frustrated because you're working out all the time, you're barely eating, and you're not losing weight. When I started living with balance, like working out maybe 4 days a week, enjoying daily cocktails, because before it was like, no, the sugars, the calories, like I can't have a cocktail. I was sad and I was heavier. Now the stress is gone. I enjoy my life. I work out because it makes me feel good. We're both moms. It's a mental break where I'm not listening to Wheels on the Bus and I can just listen to my playlist, and the endorphins that you get coming back from a workout, that's why I work out now. And I've been able to maintain a 20-pound weight loss through 2 pregnancies, and I'm going to be 40 this year. So I was like, I need to share this formula with the other moms out there.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because I think you hit right on the head. Sometimes as moms, we are a little bit extra hard on ourselves. And so somebody might think, well, I don't have an eating disorder. I just need to lose a few pounds. But you hit that right on the head where it's like, okay, but you need to still take care of yourself. And it's hard. Like I literally sing Disney songs in my head all day. Now I love Disney, but do I really need to only have that in my head? Like, it would be nice if I got a tempo up, you know, and
exactly.
had something else. Well, and something else I really loved is, so you're on Instagram and you also have your own podcast, which is really cool, the Squats and Margaritas podcast. And you show us how to use your kids to help you work out. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so fun. So on Instagram, we can see here some of your workout.
Yes. This was born during the pandemic when all the gyms closed. And I'm looking around and I was like, I have a 40-pound weight right here in my 2-year-old son. So I started just picking him up and squatting him, my daughter on my back, and do squats. And the thing is, they loved it. Like, they are just like basking and having all of my attention. They're cracking up and I'm sneaking in a workout. So everybody wins. And I started sharing them because I was like, moms, if you're home, the schools are closed, your kids are here, pick them up, put them on your back. If the kids weren't around, everybody has like a case of bottled waters. I would use that for squats or like hip thrusts. You don't need to go to a gym to be able to get in a workout, and you can do it. You don't need an hour. I'd always be like, well, I don't have time to go to the gym. I just do it sporadically during the day. I'll pick up my kids and run up and down the steps, or, you know, I have a circuit that you can do, a full body circuit where you don't need any weights. Again, during the pandemic, I had to get creative and I was able to stay in shape, and I wanted to share with other women how I was doing that with my kids at home.
Yeah. And I think that's so fun. And, you know, one thing I want to touch about on your book is that, like, this one I can totally relate with. When you started dating your husband, like, you were really insecure at the time. And I think all of us can relate to the fact that when we started dating somebody, being insecure. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you worked through that, because I think, you know, the ultimate goal is we all want to get confidence. Yeah. And you went through a journey to get there. Tell us a little bit more about that.
For me, I had to be completely honest. Like, I found my best self and I found the confidence when I got in the best shape of my life. And it was always looming. I wasn't comfortable in my body. And when you're not comfortable in your body, you start to just question everything. Like, I was dating my husband. He was in the prime of his career in the NFL. And I didn't have any self-worth. I was, you know, I was overweight, and I constantly criticized myself. And I was always thinking that he would just go for the next better option. Like, I would see all these women around, you know, it was the NFL, and I had no self-worth because I wasn't in the shape I wanted to be in. And when you don't have self-worth, you start to project that onto, you know, your spouse or whoever it may be, your partner, because you don't think that much about yourself. You kind of like expect them to cheat on you or expect them to let you down. But once I found my best body, and I don't want it to be all about the physical, but for me, when I physically felt good in my own body, I didn't question it anymore. And it didn't matter how much my husband would like reinforce that, you know, I'm not cheating on you. Obviously, when we were dating, I'm not dating other women. Like, I love you. It's in your head. And like, if you're not feeling good in your body, you're going to question and you're going to project all those insecurities onto someone else. When I found my best body, I don't stress that stuff anymore because I couldn't have fun. Nothing was as exciting or fun as it is now because it was that looming, like, my body and the stigma about, you know, I just didn't feel good in my body. When I figured that out, nothing really stresses me anymore. And I figured it out in a healthy way. So for a woman that's trying to get to their best body, like I said, in the gym 7 days a week and restricting, live your life with balance, work out a few days a week, and have the things that you want in your life. For me, it's a margarita. For you, it may be whatever it is for you, a glass of red wine. Stop depriving yourself and not living in that stressful situation, and just watch your body kind of go back to homeostasis and live at that set weight that you're supposed to be at, because the stress is gone. You're not having that low self-worth or questioning what your spouse is doing. it all just kind of falls away when you can finally find your best body. And I'm speaking for myself, but I know that for a lot of women, their body is an insecurity for them. So once I was able to finally have that not looming over me anymore, I found my confidence, and I just happened to find it later in my 30s, where you'd think in your 20s, you have time to like be in the gym and you don't have anybody else to take care of. I found this at 37. So it's like for anybody, I say in the book, for the woman who lost herself, it's not too late. You're not too old. You can change your life.
Yeah. And I love that you talk about being comfortable in your skin, like stop stressing out all the time. And I think, depending on people's body type, that's going to look different. Like I'm 5'9", so my body is not going to be the same as somebody who's 5'4". Mm-hmm. And I think that's important is we come to love ourselves and accept ourselves. And if we're doing the best that we can, and we're trying to make some good, healthy choices, not just physically, but mentally too, and stop beating ourselves up. I think that's so huge because we all struggle. Like I know in your book, you also talked about how, you had an opportunity in your career to be in front of a camera and you just nitpicked yourself. And I've mentioned this to you before, where when I first started getting on camera in my career, I was horribly nitpicking to myself too. And it didn't matter. Like at the end of the day, I need to do what I can to be healthy and happy and let all of the nitpickiness go, because that's just not helping anyone.
And you're the only one that sees it. Like no one is criticizing you as much as you are. Mm-hmm. No one sees the little flaw that you're obsessing on. But I wasn't there yet. And like, obviously I wanted to do stuff on TV, but I would see it back and I wasn't confident in myself, because at that point, when I had the TV opportunity, I was still maybe kind of just coming out of the bulimia. And I think when people think bulimic, you throw up your food, you're probably super skinny. No, like I was so bloated, and the hormones were so thrown off in my body from binging and purging that it was almost like I was just like in a puffy suit of myself. And I was just coming out of that bulimia when I had the opportunity. So I would see myself on camera just looking bloated and puffy. And it was because of the eating disorder that nobody knew about. So me finally finding this lifestyle balance, and I'm in the best body that I've been in, and I enjoy my life more, and I'm in the gym less. So for so long, I thought I was doing it the right way. And that's why I was so frustrated. Like I'm working out 7 days a week. I only eat salads. I'm definitely burning more calories than I'm taking in. That frustration and that stress and the cortisol that makes your body hold on to stress, all of that just kind of fell away when I started living with balance. Like you said, you just listen to yourself. It's just being intuitive. If you're hungry, eat. And for so long, I just wouldn't eat because I would try to save calories. But the other part of that is if you're eating dinner and you're satisfied, you don't need to keep eating and finish everything that's on the plate. If you just listen to your body, it will tell you what it needs. And it sounds so super simple. It took me 20 years to come to this conclusion, but I need to share it with the person that's stressed out and frustrated. You're doing it to yourself. And I did it to myself for so long. I don't know how much you want to get into the exercise, to the weight loss part of it, but it's not just working out, just being mindful, eating and getting off the cardio machine is another tip. I think women think I need to burn, I need to sweat, I need to run on the treadmill or do the stair stepper. My body changed when I started weight training. And I think women are told that. They're told, the guys are in the gym and you're not supposed to lift heavy. You don't want to get bulky, but it's such a myth. And any woman that's afraid of the weights and bulking up, your body's not going to do that naturally. And putting extra muscle on your body changes everything. Your metabolism will go up, your resting metabolism. So even when you're not working out, you're burning at a higher rate. You're hungry again. It changed everything for me. And I may weigh the same, but I'm wearing like a smaller size because muscle doesn't take up as much space as fat. And it totally transformed my body. And I don't think enough women are told that they should try weight training for weight loss and not just cardio.
Yeah, I agree. When I used to do triathlons, my coach would tell me that I needed to weight train. And I was like, but wait, I need to work on the endurance. He's like, yes, that's an important piece, but you've got to weight train too. And so I think that's such an important piece. So one thing else I'd like to touch on too is your podcast a little bit. So you have some really cool stuff that you talk about on your podcast. Tell us a little bit. So I want to send people to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, the podcast was born out of the pandemic as well. I started going live on Instagram, just talking to other moms. And I'd be like, what are you doing with your kids? Like, we need to share best practices. Like, we all are home with our kids. Like, everybody's stressing out. So I called it Talks and Margaritas. And I made it something that moms could look forward to at the end of the night. We'd pour a cocktail. We'd share what we're doing with our kids. Like, someone would be like, scavenger hunt, have them go out and find things outside. And we're like, this is good. So every week, like, people would look forward to this. And then my audience was starting to grow. And then I started having guests, and it turned into a little talk show. And unbeknownst to me, a program director at a radio station in DC was watching every week, and it ended up being like an interview. And she called me and was like, we would love to produce this podcast for Podcast One. And they sent me all this fancy equipment. And now I just do the same thing that I was doing on my Instagram lives. I book my guests, and I look to people that are balancing all the things. Squats and Margaritas is balanced. So a lot of strong women, moms who are working moms, building a brand while raising their kids. We obviously talk about fitness and cocktails. And I just had so many fun guests come on, and people are starting to find the podcast now. And I've never had like more fun in my life. Like, I feel like I have a talk show now that just came out of nowhere when I was a stay-at-home mom. And I feel like it's what I'm supposed to be doing, and sharing these stories from these incredible women, balancing all the things to just empower and inspire other women who listen every week.
And I love that. I love that. So they can go and check out your podcast. And then we'll also show in just a second our credit screen that has all the different places that they can find you. And your book is available on Amazon, right?
Yes, ma'am, it is. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. And thank you to our viewers. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.